Well, hello everyone. I am Matt Williamson. How's everyone doing this fine day? I am swell. I am really in off-season mode now. Hitting the free agency stuff heavy over the weekend. Probably do some podcasts about some free agent targets I would consider, at their value. Centers, safeties come to mind in particular. But this is going to be a draft show. At this time next week, I'll probably be in the car on my way to Indy. So Monday through Saturday, I think I'm in Indy. So I'll be doing podcasts from there. But there's lots going on, and I'm psyched to get there and do all that off-season stuff. And we get a bunch of good interviews as well while we're there, and it's a good time. The bars, restaurants, all that stuff at night. You get a lot of nuggets and see people you haven't seen in a while, and you can imagine. So what I'm doing today, though, is I have 18 names here in front of me, 18 and a half. And what those 18 names represent are, if a genie came out of the bottle and said, "Hey, Matt, on President's Day of 2022, February 19th, would you trade the 20th pick?" No, not even that. Would you be happy using the 20th pick on these players? And my answer is yes. These are the players I would be content swapping number 20 for right now. And there's some positions that aren't represented at all. There's some that, the top quarterbacks that aren't going to even be relevant, but they count because they do pick up, they use a position spot to get there. And soon I will do my top 20 and update that all the time. So if I'm the Steelers GM, these are my top 20 picks. And that's something every team should do. If your first pick is 28, what's your top 28? How can we live with the 28th best player if the draft goes as wrong as possible? In this case, I have 18 names that I would be very happy with at 20. And one of them will be there. 2 or 3 of them will be there. So in a way, maybe I would say, let's play it out. If this genie did exist, strange conversation. Let's play it out. And maybe there's 4 of them there because there's some edge rushers or other positions that I don't think the Steelers are going to be after. And trade down 3 spots and still get one of these 18, which I think is still very much on the table. But these are the names. Some of them are pie in the sky, of course. So let's start there with the quarterbacks. Of course, you would trade the 20th pick in the draft right now for any of the top 3 quarterbacks. Williams from USC, May from North Carolina, Daniels from LSU. Yes, of course. If they were there at 20, you would take them. It's irrelevant, but you have to count them in there anyways. If you're that good a prospect, even at a position not of need, you got to mention them. I mean, if the best edge rusher I've ever seen, if Myles Garrett was in this draft, I'd keep bringing up edge rusher because I don't think the Steelers will be in the market at all for edge. But if Myles Garrett was in this draft, you would still take him at 20. You know what I mean? Anyway, so those 3 are yeses for sure. Those are 3 of the 18. I'm open to the idea, and I'm leaning heavily against it, but would you consider one of the others? McCarthy from Michigan seems like he's pulling away as the 4th. Right now, I'm saying no. I would not trade you 20 for McCarthy as we sit right now. So I did not include him. These other guys after the quarterbacks, though, are a lot more relevant. Some of them, of course, will have no chance of getting there. Folks, BetOnline is your number one source for playoff odds, stats, trends, and lines. With everything from point spreads to hundreds of player performance props, with dozens of odds, props, and info on hundreds of sports, events, politics, and entertainment, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime from your desktop or your mobile device. Super easy. Head to BetOnline today and stay updated on all the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, these positions are more relevant for the Steelers. However, the first 3 I'm going to mention at wide receiver have no chance of being there. So, of course, you would take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 20. Of course, you'd take Malik Neighbors at 20. Of course, you'd take Rome Odunze at 20. So, same conversation as the quarterbacks. They're awesome players. Is it the biggest need position in the draft for them? No. but you would gladly accept that. No chance it would happen. When I said I had 18 and a half names, Neighbors' teammate, Thomas, the other receiver from LSU, right now I would say, no, I'm not going to take him at 20. But after a couple free agent moves and there's some needs off the table, I might be thrilled to take him at 20. So he's just a name I want you to know. I don't think wide receiver is going to be their first round pick, but there's tons of receivers. But let's say they sign a corner, a safety, and a center. Well, you might be in the market for, wow, I can't believe this unbelievably talented kid from LSU is there. Sure, I'll take him at 20. He could be in the mix at least. Along those lines, Brock Bowers is not going to be there from Georgia, but he's such a good prospect as a tight end. Of course, I would take him at 20, and I'd be thrilled about it. They need a tight end? Of course not, but he's an offensive weapon. He's a pass catcher. You would live in 12 and 13 personnel, which we're going to see more of either way, and he would catch a ton of balls and be your quarterback's best friend. So those ones also are kind of pie in the sky. Of all the stud names as well. So I have 6 offensive tackles on this list. And my hunch is at least one of them will get to 20 in such a talent-rich draft. Joe Alt from Notre Dame won't be one of them. Fashanu from Penn State won't be one of them. Those two are going to go in the top 10. So they're not going to be Steelers, but they still qualify as the 18 and a half guys I would be happy with at 20. I don't have these other 4 are all, strangely enough, right tackles by trade. I think 2 of them could go to the left side, but with Jones's versatility, I don't think that matters all that much for the Steelers. Drafting a pure right tackle isn't a negative. But Fuaga from Oregon State, take him at 20? Yeah. Latham from Bama? Yeah. Guyton from Oklahoma? Oh, yeah. Mims from Georgia? Yes. And I think Mims is going to go crazy at the combine. People don't seem to be talking about him as much because he wasn't at the Senior Bowl. Latham, it might be the strongest, most powerful lineman in this draft. Pure right tackle, old school. Fuaga's a nasty right tackle only. Guyton is the power forward type, long, lean, carries 330 pounds extremely well. Most of these tackles, I believe, like if Mims came out in most years or Guyton, I think they're top 5 picks. But in this draft, you might and probably will have a shot at one of them at 20, which would be really hard for me to pass up on and be really difficult for me to scheme my offseason around not being able to take one of those guys. Like if they're going to give you Latham, Guyton, Mims at 20, all of whom could be, I'm not saying they are, Fuaga, better prospects than Broderick Jones, but they're on the same tier. Don't you just take them? Of course, I'm going to bring up Powers Johnson from Oregon. Now, again, if you told me Steelers take Powers Johnson from Oregon at 20, great. I think he's worth that pick. He's a center. But I also don't want to be going into the draft saying we have to, I don't know poker well enough, but like you don't want to draw, you need the middle card in your straight to hit your hand. It just doesn't give you a lot of options. And what I'm saying by that is you don't want to go into this draft saying there's only one guy we can get to meet our center need, and it's already late April, and it has to be Powers Johnson. Because there's a couple teams that pick right before the Steelers that could grab him. Right now, I think there's a really good chance he's there. I'd love to have him. I think he's a phenomenal prospect. But I don't want to put all my chips in that basket either when there's 6 offensive tackles I just mentioned that could be top 20 type picks. So nothing against the player. I'm just leaning towards center and free agency and two ships passing in the night when he goes sitting there at 20 and you pass on him. That would be rough because I love him. But if you told me right now, would you swap 20 right out for Powers Johnson? Yes. And then I would go use my money elsewhere. He's that good. Lastly, I only have 4 defensive players. It's a really bad defensive tackle draft. None of those to me are what I say I'm content on President's Day to take one at 20. Same with off the ball linebacker, 100%. Same with safety. There are some really good edge guys, which means they'll get picked versus Latu, those guys. So therefore, these guys will get, the people I'm mentioning will get to 20. I mean, there will be people drafted that I have not listed as my top 18 and a half or whatever. But there are 4 corners, and I don't have a order for them either. Arnold from Bama. I'm not going to say Kool-Aid from Bama, but Arnold from Bama, yes. Mitchell from Toledo, yes. Cooper DeJean from Iowa, yes, yes, yes. And I think that, I just tweeted this the other day, that after the combine, I think you might be seeing mocks with DeJean as cornerback 1, or maybe even first defensive player off the board, like long shot to be there at 20. I think his stock's about to explode in the public's eyes. And the last one is Clemson's corner, Wiggins, who's I've been watching a lot more of lately. He is feisty. He plays hard, really smooth mover, good length, throws his body around, which worries me a little just in terms of durability. But I think all 4 of those corners fit the bill. So when you do an exercise like this, you say, well, why don't you set yourself up to draft tackle or corner in round 1? Because you're not going to get Marvin Harrison Jr., you're not going to get Caleb Williams, some of the names we mentioned, you're not going to get Bowers. But I just mentioned 4 corners I'd be happy with. Mentioned 6 tackles, 4 of whom have a chance to be there that would be happy with. So why not take what they give you? To me, that's what the draft's all about. Is really what free agency is all about, is set yourself up to fish in the deepest waters with the biggest fish. And for the Steelers, I think that's number 1, offensive tackle, number 2, corner. And I just told you the names that you should really know and dig into if you're a draft nick, or pay attention to at the combine, things like that. All right, everyone, take care.